This is the Truth Network.
Shall I play for you, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, on my drum?
Welcome to the Christian Car Guy Radio Show.
I say this calls for action, and now.
Oh, come let us adore Him. Oh, come let us adore Him. Oh, come let us adore Him, Christ the
Come, let us adore Him today on the Christian Car Guy Show. How fun is that? So, how does that work out in your life? You know, how do you come this time of year? How do you come and adore Him? You heard from King and Country with Little Drummer Boy. You know, he was a poor boy too, and he didn't have anything, you know, fit to give a king. And I love that line. And then you heard Hillsong Worship with, you know, Come, let us adore Him. But, you know, this time of year, it's an amazing time to think about that. You know, do you have a gift fit to give a king? Well, wonderfully, I think wonderfully, we have several examples. Like we have the three wisest shoppers that we know of. They came from afar, I heard. Anyway, they were following a star, and they had three amazing gifts, always good: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, no doubt, something to think about. But then also, Jesus kind of gave us a list. I don't know if you've thought about that, Scott, or we got John Haggart today with us from Crossroads Ford, a team member with the Christian Car Guy Show. So welcome, John.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning, John.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, guys. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. And so, you know, John gave, I mean, in actually Matthew 25, Jesus gave us a list. The verses are a little bit scary, but nonetheless, Matthew 25 is always one of those that gets people's attention. But he said here, truly I tell you, whatever you did for the one of the least of these, you did for me. And he gave us a list, like you fed me when I was hungry, and you visited me when I was in prison. And in other words, it's just like his shopping list. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but as you may know, this is the second Saturday of December, and so we do the Jesus Labor of Love on this week, and so we're so honored to have Crossroads Ford with us for John Haggart, and of course our lead volunteer, that would be Scott. But, you know, as I was thinking about this, like, how cool is it to give Jesus something? Because whatever you give to God, He multiplies. And the perfect example of that, of course, is when He fed the 5,000. But I don't know if I really had some fun time just coming and adoring Him with this concept this week. Like, if you were the little lad in John chapter 6 that, you know, Andrew said, hey, it's a guy over here. He's got 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? And that word lad, I did a little bit of a study because I was trying to figure out how old he was. And interestingly, you can back into that a lot of different ways by some of the books in the Apocrypha and whatever that go into Aramaic, and you can determine, really, he was about 17.
Wow.
And so he's a little bit older than the little kid you may think, but he was carrying 5 loaves, so, you know, obviously, and 2 fish. But can you imagine the joy? In other words, if you're going to give Jesus something, 5 loaves and 2 fish apparently works good. Because, oh my gosh, did He multiply it? But can you imagine how that young man felt?
Mm-hmm.
Like he just sat there and watched Jesus feed probably 10,000 people with his lunch.
Yeah, I'm sure he felt
Amazing.
real useful.
And then you may wonder, gee, why was it 5 loaves? And why was it repeated in all the Gospels that it was 5 loaves and the 2 fish? What's behind that? And some food for thought as far as the imagery of that, because I just love to do that. And we're going to get into much of what the Jesus Labor Love does in a minute. But I do want to think about this a minute. And so 5 loaves happens to be what David asked for when he went to the temple when his men were starving to death and he ate the holy bread. He asked for 5 loaves.
I didn't know that.
And that bread was holy, right? Extra holy, because it was the showbread. And he asked for 5 loaves. Now, it's also worth noting, and I think it's really cool, that there are 5 books in the book of the Torah, and it starts out with Genesis, but then it goes to Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? And so if you think about the bookend of Genesis, that book's a bit different than Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? It's more of a story, and it's the bookend on this side of the Bible. Okay, we'll go to the New Testament, and you got 4 Gospels in the book of Acts, and it bookends, right? The book of Acts is similar to Genesis in like it tells the story on the other side, right? And so it's kind of cool that those 5 books, both in the New Testament and the Old Testament, they kind of bookend each other, and something to think about. But then there's 2 fish, right? And you think about it, there are 2 testaments after all, but that's meat. And I find it fascinating. I just like to look at little details like this, Scott. You know I do. And like, isn't it interesting that there were 12 baskets full of crumbs left, but there was no fish, man? These people ate some. Like, where are the fish leftovers, Nick? I mean, what's up with that? Well, when you think about it, that was the meat, right? And I don't know if you've served many huge meals, but usually there's not that much meat left over.
Right.
Right?
It's the first to go.
First to go, yep.
And so I was thinking about this. This could be a great idea of having, so many people struggle with eating. And I don't know if you thought about it, but God is, the Word became flesh, right? And so we don't get enough Word that we eat, and so we have to supplement with food.
Wow.
So I thought about going on the Word diet, right? The more Word that you get, perhaps you wouldn't need to supplement so much with other food. I don't know, but these guys were eating the fish. That was meat, no doubt, and there weren't many leftovers. I hope that I can live my life closer to that in 2025, to where I, get the meat, no leftovers, that kind of stuff. Because I think that that's part of what I can give Jesus, is to come actually adore his word. Come and just ponder it in my heart like Mary. Come and just think about things like that. Right, Scott?
Exactly.
And I know, John, you love this too. I mean, that's so cool. So,
Yeah.
there are a lot of Christian car guys out there. Just saying. And I went and spoke at Westover Church in Greensboro, North Carolina. For those in Washington, it's called the Triad part of North Carolina. And I met John there, and he came up and told me that he was the general manager there. And it was immediately like, oh, yeah.
Car guys.
Yeah. Speaking the same language. Yeah.
And so I know that I've heard for years that the people that own the Crossroads dealerships are wonderful Christian people.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes. The Boyd family, they started a Christian school actually in the Henderson area. It's called Crossroads Christian School. So.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that, but I had heard for years that they are phenomenally wonderful Christian folks. And again, I was a little bit familiar with that, but I think it's really cool. So in my case, I came up in the Crown organization probably when I was about your age, and Royce Reynolds was a wonderful Christian guy, and he really was a big mentor for me. I wonder how the Boyds have played that role in your life, John.
Oh, well, I think just to providing a vision and how they want to treat their customers and how they want to treat their employees, It's been an amazing journey. I've been with the company for 23 years, and to know that you've got a company that really values, your journey with God and is able to express that to their employees is
It's huge,
comforting.
and I'll tell you why. For those of us who know the car business well, we and I know it. I've spent 40 years in it. That a lot of these places, they will work you. You will be expected to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and expected to leave at 10 o'clock at night, and that's 6 or 7 days a week.
7 days we're always closed on Sundays. Always closed on Sundays. Closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day.
Because and so having Christian folks there it's amazing that allow you to have a family because you got 3 children and all that stuff. So we got so much more coming up. Come let us adore him today on the Christian Car Guy Show. What's your story? We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, to lay before the King, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum. So to honor him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, when we
Come let us adore him today on the Christian Car Guy Show. How fun. We are having a blast today. We're with the Jesus Labor Love Scott Barton, and we got our new friend John Hargett, which I'll get his name right here. I apologize for that.
Okay.
But, it's a Jesus Labor Love. That's car repair labor for single moms, widows, and families in crisis. And we have had, the Lord has blessed us like he has never blessed us before this year. We've given away more cars. We've had more donations, and that comes from y'all out there listening. It just blows my mind what God has provided, and I am so unbelievably grateful to be the middleman to see how this stuff goes. And so we've got on the line some folks who have been recipients of that. We have, first of all, Nicole Bullens happens to be in New York City this morning. So,
Good
Nicole,
morning.
you're on the Christian Car Guy Show.
Hey, Robby. Hey, Scott. How are y'all today?
Good morning, Nicole.
So I know it's hard to be on the radio, Nicole, but if you wouldn't mind, just share your story a little bit about how did you end up, where you needed some help and what happened?
My car had needed to really be inspected all month, and I kept putting it off. Well, then, of course, the check engine light comes on like it usually does right at the end of the month when you need to get your car inspected. And so, took it to the guy, and it was going to need something replaced in order to get the light off and all, to avoid fees and things like that. So, wasn't quite payday and stuff. So I knew you had this program, and so I asked you about it and all. So we was able to get in touch with Scott and got things worked out and helped us out with it. And so got the car inspected and got out of the doghouse with my husband for waiting to the last minute.
I'd love this picture if I could paint it a little clearer for you. Nicole has 3 children at home, one that kind of comes home a lot. And then she's also taking care of a niece that lives with him also.
Wow.
And then, it's that time of year, and you can imagine, and I can, because I know Tammy and I have had this happen many times. Go get the car inspected. Go get the car. Oh, I'm going to get it inspected. I'm going to get it inspected. But the week you go to do it is the week the check engine light comes on.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, it's going to need this, and this, and this, and this. And the beauty of the Jesus Labor Love program, number one, it comes from Jesus. That was something God put on my heart to begin with. There's never going to be any question who provided this. It was Jesus, okay? But then also, it's for the people that slip between the cracks. There's so many people out there that really need help, and they have the courage to call in and ask for help through the Jesus Labor Love, but there aren't many other social programs or other programs that would fit the situation, especially when you're talking about families in crisis or widows or, single moms and that kind of thing. And so we're just we're really excited that we get to, Nicole, it's awesome that people out there somewhere, want to give, like, to the least of these, like however that is. Then I believe me, I'm the least of these, and I get that that in that way they're given to Jesus. So I'm so grateful for you having the courage to say, hey, I can't do this, I need some help.
Yeah, because that's a Jesus thing too. Because I'm not one to usually do that. I'm usually, I can do it by myself and all. So it takes a lot for me to swallow that pride and say, hey, look, I need some help with this. And but I'm thankful for all the listeners and the support you guys get, and able to offer that. And I mean, I don't even feel worthy of it, and I'm sure there's people who are in probably far worse situations. But, just thankful I was blessed for you guys to be able to give me that assistance and help me out. So.
Well, I'll never forget, Nicole, and maybe I've told you this story, I don't know, but it rings around in my head always, that when I was crushed between the Jeeps and I was, I had to be in a wheelchair for 2 years. Wow. And I lived in a pretty nice neighborhood and stuff, but they were saying, Robby, in order to get out of the house, you need a wheelchair ramp. And the one that I needed, because my deck was so far off the ground, was like 60 feet long, some crazy amount. It was like a football field. It looked like it was so long that it needed to be. And that Christmas, my whole Sunday school class showed up at my house building this wheelchair ramp that went forever. And I'm totally humiliated. I'm like, and I went out to the Sunday school teacher, Mike Hamm, and I said, Mike, I just can't believe you guys are doing this. I have never done anything like this for anybody else. I just, I feel so unworthy of it. I know the feeling that you're talking about. And what he told me, I've never, ever forgotten. And I think it's at the heart of what God wanted me to help provide, was he said, Robby, we would do it for more people, but they rob us of the blessing because they never ask for help.
Yep.
And so with that, thank you, Nicole. God bless you. Have a fun time in New York.
Warm up in the Big Apple.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good day, and I appreciate y'all having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. God bless. You have a great weekend. Bye-bye. All right, next up we got Wendy. Wendy's in Cary, North Carolina. Hello, Wendy.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Robby.
Oh, it's always so great to hear your voice. So, what's on your heart today, Wendy?
Well, I received a Pontiac Grand Prix from the Jesus Labor of Love Ministry, and it's been a few months. It's been a couple months now since I've been driving it, and you guys are amazing. Just not only the car, but making sure that the car is in good repair and making sure that it's, safe. I'm a single mom, so of course you worry about putting your kids in a car, and the Lord has just provided through you. This car is not only safe, he keeps showing me opportunities where somebody needs a ride, or somebody needs, a run to the grocery store or something like that. And I've just been able to say, yes, I would love to give you a ride. I've been blessed with this car, and now I'm able to, in very, very much smaller ways, bless somebody else. And because I have some physical disabilities, God's given me time.
I hate to jump in right this second, but would you please stay on with me through the break?
Yeah.
And because I definitely want to talk to you some more and about those things. And so we're going to be back right with more Christian Car Guy Show. We would love for you to call 866-348-7884.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him, Christ the
Come, let us adore him today on the Christian Car Guy Show. What an opportunity we always have this time of year. And Wendy, you're still with us, I hope?
I'm here, yes, sir.
Wonderful. Wendy, I've been thinking about this all week, like a lot of things God gives me to think about, that my boss, Stu Epperson, if you ever meet him, he will say over and over again that happiness has to do with happenings, right? If you look into the root word of happiness, it has to do with what's happening. But joy, on the other hand, if you dig it into that word deeply, like people who know me know I love to do, even in English, it comes from the root word of gladness, actually, and it has to do with a shine. And, like Moses, when you hang out and you come and adore Jesus, when you get close enough, when you be hugging on him and kissing, all that stuff that you can do with Jesus, you get a shine. And it doesn't,
kind of glory.
And it doesn't matter, like in the 16th Psalm, right? In his presence is fullness of joy. And since I have known you, and I know Scott would agree with me, right? Do you know a person under all sorts of circumstances? Because, we talked to you long before you were on the air, and the ox was in the ditch. I'm telling you. And she's got that shine.
Literally.
Always.
She does. And I absolutely do know some people that radiate that joy. In fact, one of them I chose to be my mentor, one of my mentors, because of that. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying his name here. He's a pastor at River Oaks, David Holcomb.
Yeah.
And
David's
he just
a good
radiates that joy. And I was just like, I want this. So he became one of my mentors.
Yeah, the joy of your Lord is your strength. And I know that is you, Wendy, but you were talking about your disabilities. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the break came, and so share.
Oh, I was just saying that the trade-off is I have a little bit more time, to, like you were saying earlier, listen to the Lord's voice. And I don't always obey. We're all human, but he is so grace-filled and so full of second chances, and just has given me opportunities to share just a little bit with other people, the blessing that you guys have blessed me with. And it's meant that, I can take my son, who also has some health needs, to the doctor, and I can take myself to therapy, and I can, do all of those things that are such a challenge when your car is constantly breaking down or you don't have a car. And so just that tangible blessing from the Lord of what to bless not only me, but so many other people. It's amazing what the Lord can multiply, like the loaves and fishes, just take a very little and multiply it to so many people. So thank you. Thank you to your donors.
Oh, thank you. And it reminded me, actually, something I didn't say, that the 2 and the 5 are multipliers, that big time. Mm-hmm. Like most people can just go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but you can also go 5, 10, 15, 20. In other words, they're natural multipliers. And the word fish, this is fascinating. I discovered this morning, that the same word for fish in Hebrew is the same word for multiply.
Oh, wow.
And if you think about how fish multiply, if you ever had guppies, you'd be knowing they make a rabbit and look like nothing. And so fish just multiply. But it's an amazing thing that again, all that what God is telling in that story that boy gave. And when you think about how God multiplied it, not only did he feed those 5,000, maybe the 10,000 with the women and children, but he is still feeding us today. How many of us listening right now have been fed by this story, by that boy's loaves?
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
It sure is.
Very cool.
It is just so something to come in the door. Wendy, you're amazing. And I always am so grateful for you.
Wendy, before you go, how's your cat doing?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for asking, Scott. Our cat had surgery on Tuesday. So speaking of God providing, he is doing much better. He's home, and we're taking good care of him. And again, God is faithful. So grateful.
Oh,
so grateful
you.
for you guys.
I'm
too.
so grateful
Thanks for blessing me.
Yeah, Scott cares about, that's so cool that you knew that, Scott.
Well, thanks for your call, Wendy.
Yes.
And have a
God bless.
blessed weekend, and Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
You guys too. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. 866-348, the number to call, 866-348-7884. If you're not familiar with the Jesus Labor Love, it's a ministry we've been doing since, I think, 2013 within the Christian Car Guys show, and it helps single moms, widows, and families in crisis. And the way it works is simple. If you go to ChristianCarGuy.com, it's all one word, ChristianCarGuy.com, you'll see some banners on the left, couldn't be more clear, that says donate to the Jesus Labor Love, or it says apply for assistance. Actually, the apply for assistance comes ahead of the donate, because that if we don't have donors, we don't have any need for donation. I mean, if we don't have needs, we don't have any need for the donations. And so we are so blessed to have people that have needs. But we have added to that this year with the hurricane. And by the way, we've had several donations, large donations, that were designated for hurricane victims. And they don't have to be car needs. Whatever, if you're a hurricane victim, our ministry is now set up to help people in that situation. And, we're past the major crisis at this point in time, but there's people that have lost all sorts of stuff. Well, again, if you know of somebody in that situation, you go to ChristianCarGuy.com, apply for assistance. You can apply for assistance for car assistance like Nicole and Wendy did, or you can apply if you're in the hurricane situation or whatever it may be. And we'll be honest, we don't always meet all the needs, do we, Scott? But one thing we will always do, and Scott and I both, if there's some part of this ministry we enjoy, I bet I don't even have to say it. Scott will say it. What is it that we love the most?
We pray with you and listen to your needs.
Yeah. That's again, because God's going to meet it, whatever that need may be in your life, whether you contacted Jesus Labor of Love or not. But he likes to be asked. He likes to be in on the deal, and we love. I mean, some of my most cherished memories ever will be about prayers that I prayed with Jesus Labor Love applicants, that they just say, Robby, will you pray for me about this? Because, I just never had anybody pray with me before. How many times have you had applicants say that? I've never had anybody pray with me before.
Quite a few.
And so that's what the Jesus Labor Love is. It's all there at ChristianCarGuy.com. And it's all made possible through sponsors like Crossroads Ford, which we're so grateful to have John Hargett with us. That and John, it's a really cool thing from my standpoint to have people out there that care about their employees in the car business, because that's one of the gigantic issues. Is yes, you want to treat your customers good, but if you don't treat your employees good, you don't stand a chance. And the general manager, you probably know that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to take care of your people. They've got to know that you're there for them. One of the things that we try to do is to really just to have good long-term employees who feel like they have a home. And so we've got tremendous tenure. A lot of people have been there 10, 15 years, 20 years. So we're really blessed that way.
Will stay if you care for them. Mm-hmm. People want to belong.
Yes.
People want to be appreciated. People, want to help an organization that they feel like is actually good people.
Agreed.
Yeah, they like structure and support.
And so when you walk into a dealership and you don't see the same faces you saw 2 weeks ago,
oh, you got problems.
I worked for an Oldsmobile store in Charlotte. It was, have you ever heard of the Hull Dobbs organization? They were one of those that was the, and they hired 20 salesmen every week.
I've heard of places that would do that.
And it was a system where, like, out on the corner, if you were a customer and you walked into this situation, like, you felt like a pack of wolves was coming, because they all were living off commission, and if you didn't wait on anybody, you had 50, 60 people you were competing with that were all beat you to that customer. And so the poor customers, they're like, man, this horde is coming after me. And if you were one of those horde, and I was one of them, you felt like, man, I am just a number, and if I don't get my numbers, they will replace me tomorrow. And it's just a difficult thing. So to have a place that belongs, whatever industry you're in today, as you're listening, it means a lot. And a lot of way that you can adore Christ is to adore the people around you. and we got such an opportunity for you coming. In the next segment, we have Ann Alt coming with an amazing episode of The Ugly Duckling. You got to stay tuned for this. It's going to be awesome.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. Christ the Lord.
Oh, come let us adore him. And you know, it is so amazing that we get to this time of year. Think about, you know, what are we going to give Jesus? What are we going to, you know, when you wrap a gift, you're thinking about, like, man, what is it going to look like when their eyes light up, when they realize, you know, the whole thing. And so as we're wrapping these gifts for Jesus this year, what an amazing thing to picture, like, how I'm going to wrap this gift. And so when I think about that whole idea, I can't help but think of my dear, dear friend, Ann Alt, who has been with us on Christian Car Guy Theater for many, many, many years. And she, you know, her health has declined and she finds herself in a lot different situation. However, her gifts and talents that God gave him, she's still able to come adore him with, right, Ann?
That's right. You know, God doesn't waste a thing in our lives. I was just thinking, Robby, about the time when I was Fatty Four Eyes as a kid. You know, that's what kids called me, Fatty Four Eyes, Fatty Four Eyes. And but I showed them by the Lord's grace, you know. It was such a miracle because it made me turn to musicals on records in those days. And I memorized every part, and I acted in my living room. And son of a gun, my freshman year in college, when I had lost some weight, you know, I auditioned for The King and I, and played the lead role, Anna in The King and I. And it was the beginning of a career.
Who was the king? I'm trying to remember. He was on
Yul Brynner was the king in the movie.
No, with you when you did it on off Broadway.
Oh gosh, it was Lord have mercy.
Oh, I shouldn't ask you a tough question like that. He did Christian Car Guy Theater with us, but his name escaped my mind, so I can't even. But anyway, we got to get to, and this story is kind of like, this is a new famous fairy tales. For those of you not familiar with Christian Car Guy Theater, we have an amazing writer. Her name is Ellen Kennedy, and since Ann's illness and her loss of memory, she helps us with these very simple, wonderful, famous fairy tale scripts. And so today we have for you Ann's rendition of The Ugly Duckling, which goes right along with Fatty Four Eyes. And
absolutely.
So without further ado, Nick, let's play The Ugly Duckling. Yes, it's another episode of Famous Fairy Tales, the radio program where you learn the rest of the story from your childhood. So today, listeners, we're at Swan Lake, that very popular resort area just beyond Fairy Tale Woods. And it's a beautiful day. Lots of swimming, boating, and water sports going on.
Good morning. Welcome to Swan Lake. I am Miss Swan. How can I help you?
I'm doing a feature on how some famous characters are doing now.
Oh, you mean me? I'm flattered. Well, perhaps you know how I started out.
Yes, you weren't exactly welcome in the company of ducklings, as I remember.
That's putting it mildly. I looked very different.
What do you mean, different?
Oh, I was gray and brown and not yellow. And my bill was black, not orange.
It must have been difficult.
Oh, it was. It all changed. The day the flock chased me out of the pond, and I waddled into a tiny chapel in the woods.
Really? A chapel?
It was the singing that drew me in, and I joined in.
I've heard that swans aren't known for their singing voices. What was the hymn?
It was the Little Brown Church in the Vale. Do you know it?
I certainly do. It goes, "Oh, come to the church in the wild woods, the little brown church in the vale."
That's right. I like the part where you sing, "Oh, come, 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 come." I sang, "Oh, squawk, 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 squawk."
So it was a regular church service?
Yes, with a sermon and everything. The pastor preached on Romans 10:9.
If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
So I believed in my heart.
And confessed with your bill?
And I was saved. I was still an ugly duckling, but it didn't matter. God loved me anyway, whether I was drab and gray back then.
Or beautiful and graceful and white as a cloud, as you are now.
Exactly.
So what do you do now?
I run a PZBS,
What?
a poultry vacation Bible school, open to swans and ducks alike. Excuse me.
Of course.
Gather around, everyone. We're going to sing Jesus Loves the Little Children. Walk, 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 walk. Walk, 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 walk.
As you just heard, listeners, the words happily ever after are much more complicated than you might think. Tune in again soon for another Famous Fairy Tales, the radio program where you learn the rest of the story from your childhood. Oh, that was so much fun to do, Ann. And I got to admit, when I finished it, tears were going down my
Oh, no. You know, Robby, I couldn't hear a word. I'm sad to say I wasn't able to hear it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping that by you being on the phone, well, I'll make sure that you get to hear it later. But the squawking that you did was the fun part of the whole deal. Jesus loves the little children. You know, you can still carry a tune, even though it's not the king and I. And
well,
Ellen,
at least it's entertaining.
The thing that blows me away about this particular episode, is behind the scenes, is I talked to Ann last Saturday, and she'd had a particularly tough day, and I could tell that she just wasn't feeling so good, and so I emailed Ellen Kennedy, the author of these episodes. I said, Ellen, we need an episode that Ann can record this week, and Sunday night, I had the episode. And we recorded it Tuesday. And so, for all of us, we want to feel like we've got a purpose for the kingdom. And Ann, yours was to act. And in spite of what is happening in your life with the brain tumor, et cetera, God has still given you an opportunity to share your gifts.
He sure is. He sure is. Never give up, never surrender. I mean, just keeping on. The Lord has reasons for each stage of our lives, however disconcerting it might be in a particular stage, but, just keep on and hold tight to the Lord Jesus Christ, because he has plans for you for good, not for evil, no matter how much the enemy might throw these things at you. And I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, wait, I'm going to make sure on my way home that you're going to get a call and we will play it for you. But, Scott, we were talking about a shine, right? The joy of the Lord is your strength. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and you've always exemplified that. And I am truly excited about what God is doing.
A true inspiration, Ann.
Both through
thanks for your
Jesus
call.
Labor Love and through Christian Car Guy Theater, and now through new sponsors, like John with Crosswords Forward, and what's going on here at the Christian Car Guy Show. The Lord has truly blessed it because of you guys listening. And so just remember, you can go to ChristianCarGuy.com. You can listen to that episode of Very Famous Fairy Tales again if you want to, or you can see about the Jesus Labor Love. All that stuff is there. Soon to be a great big banner for Crossroads Forward. Yeah. We're going to get that going as well. Thank you, Scott, for all you do for Jesus Labor Love. Thank you, John, for having...
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it really was. Now, as I always say, even though it's Christmas, you still got to slow down, especially this time of year. Remember, Jesus walked everywhere he went, got it all done in 33 years.
We listen to the Truth Network. TruthNetwork.com.
This is the Truth Network.